Every component of a car that was once mechanical is becoming electronically controlled. Roll-up windows got replaced with electric ones. Carburetors, they got replaced with fuel injection. Heck, even your in-car flute is now just Apple CarPlay. Miss playing those fluty tunes. But there's one component that hasn't gone to Zaptown yet, and maybe never will. That's your brakes. But why is that? Why have brakes not evolved from hydraulics to electronics? What's stopping drive-by-wire brakes from being added to cars just like drive-by-wire throttle? And why haven't the basics of brake technology changed in over 100 years? Well, I guess we'll never know. Unless I do a video about it. Let's go.
Big thanks to AutoZone for sponsoring this video. We've all been there, right? You're driving around, minding your own business, when all of a sudden, bam, your check engine light comes on.
Hey, James, yeah, we're gonna be a little late. Nolan's check engine light came on.
Worst of all, you realize you forgot your OBD2 reader at home. But don't worry, because any nearby AutoZone has got you covered.
Hey, can I call you back? Yeah, they're about to reveal the storefront, which means we're cutting to an AutoZone.
Got this, Jerry?
I got it.
All right. Your local AutoZone provides a fix finder service for situations just like these.
I bet you wish you brought your own reader, huh, Nolan? Because this is gonna be pricey.
Not only is it free, but you'll work with an AutoZoner who uses the Fix Finder to read OBD2 codes and uses an exclusive database to find remedies, comparing verified fixes across similar years, makes, models, engines, all for free. Fix Finder will print and email you a list of any applicable part solutions, or if your car needs a more serious repair, AutoZone can use those readings to give you a referral to a professional shop. The coolest part is, Fix Finder will outline your car's future problems based on current service maintenance interval recommendations.
It says here in the report that your check engine light is on because your gas cap may be loose. I went ahead and sent that to your email as well.
Thanks.
No problem.
I was really worried there.
Yeah, well, you should be worried because we're late, so you know what that means.
Jerry, we gotta get out of here. Thank you.
No problem.
And AutoZone is always nearby with Fix Finder, the most complete free warning light report backed by technician verified fixes. To learn more about the free Fix Finder service and to find your nearest location, click the link in the description below.
To understand what's happening, let's first look at traditional hydraulic brakes. When you press your brake pedal down in a normal car, the lever of the pedal presses on a plunger in the master cylinder. This plunger is at the end of a sealed hydraulic system full of brake fluid. As you press down, the force exerted by your foot becomes pressure in the fluid. This pushes the brake fluid down the brake lines to the next cylinder, or in this case, the brake caliper. There's one of these in each wheel if you have 4-disc brakes, and they push on pistons inside the brake caliper, or they move shoes if you have drum brakes. Those push your brake pads into the rotor, creating friction, and it's friction that slows down the car. Since this is a sealed hydraulic system, there's almost no delay and every component moves in tandem with your foot. That's it. It's simple, it's reliable, it's effective, and it's old as hell. You know, it's not simple, the YouTube algorithm. And right now, it really rewards likes. So be sure to like this video and subscribe if you're not already a subscriber. Thank you so much. So back to some science for a second. How can your foot generate enough force to stop an entire car? Well, for that, we have to look at Pascal's Law. Pascal's Law states that any change in the pressure on an enclosed fluid is transmitted equally throughout the fluid and is undiminished in all parts of the container. The pressure on one side has to equal the pressure on the other. But for that to happen, you either need a change in force or a change in surface area. So if we look at my very clean dirt bike, we say we have a rear brake lever right here that's connected to a master cylinder with a line that runs all the way back to the rear caliper. You spin that, and it clamps down. And the force clamping on the rear caliper to be greater than the force applied by your foot, the surface area inside the master cylinder has to be smaller than the surface area in the caliper. If you were to measure the piston surface area in the caliper, it's going to be much bigger than what's inside this master cylinder. And you want that because now you get greater clamping force on the rear end of the bike. But we can also look at this equation in terms of work. Work is the application of force over distance, and it's that component of distance that makes such a big difference. And when you step on the brake pedal in your car, your foot travels a couple inches, right? 5, 6, 7 inches. But at the brake pad, the piston is only moving a fraction of the inch. Same thing here. I push on this brake pedal right here, right here, that's maybe a max of an inch of travel. If we go all the way back to the rear caliper, you can see the pistons actually pushing on the brake pads into the rotor, and they're moving a fraction of an inch. So to balance that equation, those two need to be the same amount of work. And since work is force times distance, the force on the brake pads will be immensely greater than the force applied by your foot. This is the basic advantage of a hydraulic system, and it's used all the time to lift heavy things and exert more force than your body can all at once. Things like power-assisted braking and brake boosters, they can make braking more comfortable, but they still revolve around the same process of hydraulic transference. But the main problem with hydraulic brakes is that it will always require the system to be closed. Any leak or cut in the brake lines would be enough to stop that transfer of pressure from making it to the wheels, and your brakes are not going to work. This is the kind of brake failure that everyone thinks of in movies when someone cuts a brake line. Crawling underneath the car, and now they drive away and then they're dead. So there are problems with the old way of braking. So how would electronic brakes fix those problems? Well, first we need to see how they work. I'm inside a 2022 Audi E-Tron, the first fully electric car to include brake-by-wire technology. Now, when I push down on the brake pedal of this car, there's a sensor that measures the amount of brake pedal travel. That information is sent over to an electric pump that feeds hydraulic brake fluid into the calipers, and it regulates the amount of clamping the brake pads do on the rotors. Now see, Audi is saying that this is a brake-by-wire system, but actually it's much more than that. See, I'm getting actual pressure feedback from actual hydraulic fluid. It's just not directly connected to the braking. When I press on this pedal, it still moves fluid inside the master cylinder. That pressure simulates what feedback the brake would be giving you, and a pressure sensor at the end of the master cylinder is coupled to an electric pump, so that feedback can be exactly what it would be like if the car had a purely hydraulic system. The Audi e-tron is technically a dual hydroelectric system. It's a fully functioning hydraulic system with a bypass put in it. Ooh, and it works pretty good. The electric system acts as a middleman between the first half of the system, that's the brakes and the master cylinder, and the second half, the calipers. So this means while the two parts are mechanical, the Audi can brake with pedal input for emergency stops, or it can see pedal pressure and use the electric motors to slow you down instead of using the brake calipers. This is how regenerative braking works. The inertia of the car is used to charge the electric battery by driving the electric motor in reverse. But the point is, even though this is an electronically controlled system, it still has good old hydraulics playing a major role. In the unlikely event that you have an electronic failure, your good old hydraulic system is fully capable of bringing this car to a stop. And that's great, because one of the scariest things on the planet is wanting to stop and then not being able to.
There are several reasons that manufacturers would want to switch over to electric braking instead of hydraulic. The first would be to have computer-controlled braking for automatic emergency braking systems. The next would be to have variable braking, soft braking for the road, but harsh braking for track mode. And also, as parts all go electronic, there are fewer actual pieces to manufacture. The easiest system would be a pedal with a position sensor that tells a servo in each wheel how much to clamp down on the brake rotors, which would be pretty simple. Now this all sounds great, Jerry. You should sell products as seen on TV. I mean, you're a very convincing salesman, so what's the catch? Well, there is a big as your mama problem with electric brakes, and that problem is us. Always freaking us, man. We're always a problem. We've driven for so long with hydraulic brakes that the tactile feedback of a hydraulic system is essential for normal driving. The basic design of braking system hasn't changed in 100 years. Not since the Model A Duesenberg have we really seen a new way to do brakes. The problem with just having an electric system with a pedal position sensor is that there'd be no resistance in the pedal. Audi had to add a pressure simulator to the braking system just to make the pedal feel like it was hydraulic. It's hydraulic pressure, but it's not direct feedback from the actual brakes. We've seen the same thing happen with steering. As cars like the M3 changed from hydraulic steering to electric steering, many people complained that it didn't feel right, and BMW had to work hard to get that feeling back. You've lost that hydraulic feeling. Whoa, that hydraulic feeling. You've lost that hydro feeling, now it's gone. You're dead. Gone, you're dead. Gone, you're dead. Now, part of this is a legitimate concern. There are many times when you know what a car is doing,
by feel. If you brake hard without ABS, you can feel it in your foot when the brake is going to lock up, and a skilled driver can feather that out and avoid locking up a wheel. For most people though, they don't notice the tactile feedback of the steering wheel or the accelerator pedal, but they definitely notice it in braking. But the major hurdle is not the brakes themselves, but rather our brains. See, brakes are the main thing in your car you never want to fail, right? If your accelerator stops working one day, that sucks, but at least your brakes didn't fail you on a freeway as you're approaching traffic. We as humans, we trust brakes not to fail, and we trust hydraulics to do that because we aren't that familiar with hydraulic failure. Now, electrical failures, we see those all the time. Every time you update the OS on an old iPhone, or when your Xbox crashes because it's been stuck in that little IKEA cubby with no way for it to vent heat and you haven't cleaned the back of it since the London Olympics, just dust everywhere, it's just like sucking all the dust in and then it like freezes. You get it. My point being, we see electronic failures all the time because we're surrounded by electronics. So even if electric brakes fail less often than hydraulic brakes, we'd still feel safer with the magic liquid pumps that we've been using for the last century. Hydraulic brakes, they're pretty well refined. Don't get me wrong, only 2% of crashes in the US are caused by brake failure, and that's usually from people not changing their pads and letting them wear out. People, change your brake pads. They're kind of important. Now, unfortunately, I can't give you any other stats on the failure rate of electric braking because right now there are no cars that use a fully electric braking system. And it's the same story with the CA Corvette and even the Tesla Model 3. So not only do these cars have to run an electric braking system, they also have to run a full hydraulic system just in case the first system fails. I mean, come on, if humans just trusted electronics and welcomed our new robot overlords, we wouldn't have this problem. Now, currently, most hybrids and EVs use some sort of electric braking. It uses resistance from the motors to slow the wheels and effectively route that momentum energy back into the motor. This is most commonly known as regenerative braking, but it only accounts for about 20% of the stopping force of the average EV. And braking for something like a stop sign still uses a hydraulic system. The other thing that manufacturers need to show us for electric brakes to really be trusted is what happens if the car loses power. If no power means no brakes, that's gonna be a big fat no. But I don't know, maybe there's a solution to that right around the corner. Electric braking systems are certainly in development, and while I think hydraulic brakes are gonna be some of the last mechanical components on a car, one day we will come around when we go full electric. But what do you guys think? Let me know down in the comments. Do you guys trust electronic brakes? When do you think you're gonna see them, huh? 2025? 2030? Maybe later? Maybe tomorrow? You building your own brakes? Let me know if you're building your own brakes. Thank you guys so much for watching this episode of B2B. Follow us here at Donut Media. Follow me at Jeremiah Burton. Thank you guys so much for watching. Until next week. Bye for now.